chippiness at half court between Ryan Howard and Caitlin Clark.
Chippiness at half court between Ryan Howard and Caitlin Clark. She's got time. Cloud defending. Clark tries to create some airspace. A long three from the heart. Oh! Had Angel or anyone else done the exact same type of foul to Caitlin, the storyline would be different. Last season, you came at me, took your shots, ran your mouths, and made it personal. This season, I'm not holding back. No mercy will be shown on the court. Caitlin Clark didn't come into her sophomore season looking for peace. After a record-breaking rookie campaign that turned the entire WNBA upside down, the conversation surrounding her didn't settle down. They got louder and more personal. Critics questioned whether she was truly built for this league. Veterans tested her every chance they got, and every move she made was dissected under the harshest spotlight women's basketball has ever seen. The honeymoon phase was over. And if Caitlin wanted to stay on top, she had to fight for every inch of space on the court and every ounce of respect off of it. She heard the noise and saw the headlines. And instead of shrinking under the pressure, she chose to respond the only way she knows how, by showing up and taking the game right back. The start of the season wasn't just about getting back into rhythm. It was about making a statement. From deep threes to fearless drives, from pinpoint assists to the physical battles that left her on the hardwood, Caitlin Clark came out swinging. When Angel Reese tried to get into her head, Caitlin didn't react emotionally. She got up, tightened her ponytail, and kept playing with even more intensity. This isn't a sophomore slump. This is a second act with a purpose. Caitlin isn't just trying to prove that she belongs. She's here to take control of the narrative, silence the doubters, and remind everyone that the spotlight doesn't make her nervous. It fuels her. And if this start is any indication of what's coming next, the rest of the league better be ready, because Caitlin Clark isn't backing down. She's fighting back. Even before the first whistle, there was a different energy in the arena. The cameras weren't just tracking her warm-ups. They were searching for signs. Would she hesitate, or would she play it safe? Would the weight of the spotlight show? After all the media pressure, the off-court noise, and a long off-season of hearing how she might not last, most players would need a few plays to settle in. But Caitlin Clark isn't most players. From her catching around that 15-foot area, Clark connects on the first logo bomb of the season. That shot wasn't just the first 3 points of her season. It was a reminder that she doesn't wait for permission to start playing her game. She could have looked to ease and feel the pace and test the waters. Instead, she pulled up from distance and made sure the entire arena and everyone watching at home knew she wasn't here to survive. She was here to strike first. And just like that, the tone was set. Caitlin Clark was back on the floor, and she hadn't lost a step. But if you thought she was just going to shoot, you haven't been paying attention to what really makes her dangerous. After knocking down that first shot, Caitlin didn't force the issue. She didn't start hunting for heat checks or try to dominate the stat sheet. Instead, she did something that's always separated her from the average scorer. She started reading the game like a point guard with a playbook no one else could see. The defense, already on its heels from the threat of her jumper, gave her just a sliver of space. And that was all she needed. Not to shoot, but to create. Both of these teams are conditioning. Maybe the broadcasters as well. One quick step, a look at the help defense, and then a pinpoint lob over the top, right where only her teammate could catch it in stride. It was the kind of pass you don't usually see in the first quarter of a game, let alone in the first game of the season. But Caitlin sees angles other players don't. She doesn't just score, she manipulates defenses. She pressures you into collapsing, then punishes you the second you shift too far. This wasn't just a flashy pass. It was control. It was poise. And more than anything, it was a reminder that she's not just playing to silence critics. She's making her teammates better while doing it. Because when Caitlin Clark starts balancing scoring with surgical passing, it's not just a problem for defenders. It's a nightmare. By now, it was obvious Caitlin wasn't just playing well. She was in complete control. And control doesn't always show up in the box score. Sometimes it shows up in the way everyone else moves when she has the ball in her hands. She wasn't just taking what the defense gave her. She was dictating what they could do, calling out sets, signaling screens, resetting the tempo. It looked less like a player fitting into the flow of the game and more like a conductor running an orchestra. Ends up carrying the Ho. Here's Clark in transition. Clark. Oh, what a look. And Ho lays it in. It's one thing to lead in scoring. It's another to lead in presence. And what Caitlin was doing here was leading without even dribbling. You could see it in her eyes, reading the floor, scanning the defense, calling out subtle shifts before they happened. This wasn't just playmaking. She's the kind of player who raises the floor of an entire offense just by being out there. Not because she demands it, but because everyone around her knows the margin for error is smaller when she's orchestrating. She brings urgency to every set, clarity to every possession, and focus to every movement. And with the game already bending to her rhythm, it was only a matter of time before she punished the defense for getting too comfortable. With the offense flowing through her, defenders started making a crucial mistake. They began guessing. And against someone like Caitlin Clark, guessing is how you end up on a highlight reel. She's already proven she can shoot from range and pick apart defenses with passes. But this next play was all footwork, feel, and finesse. The passing in a way that makes her a threat from so many different places on the floor. Clark, little mid-range is good. One subtle hesitation, a half-step head fake, and her defender bit just enough. Caitlin saw it immediately, planted her foot, changed direction, and the space opened up exactly where she wanted it. It wasn't some viral crossover moment, but that's what made it special. It was clean, and it was the kind of shot that shows you just how polished her game has become. She doesn't need extra dribbles. She just creates space, elevates, and knocks it down. This wasn't a heat check. It was a calculated shot in rhythm, in motion, and right on time. The defender was still recovering by the time the ball touched the net. And now, with both the outside shot and the mid-range working, the defense had a problem on its hands. But Caitlin wasn't done proving a point. As the second quarter ticked down, the game was still close, but the momentum was starting to tilt. You could feel it in the building. The crowd wasn't just watching anymore. They were waiting for something to break the game open, waiting for one of those signature moments that turns a good half into a statement. Caitlin had already been directing traffic, finding teammates, creating space, and hitting her spots. But what came next wasn't just about execution. It was about timing. And timing has always been one of her deadliest weapons. Screen set by Leah Boston. That's a tough shot. With the shot clock winding down and defenders closing in, Caitlin pulled up from way beyond the arc and drained it. No hesitation, just pure confidence. A three-point bomb right before the break. The kind of shot that swings momentum and guts a defense on the way to the locker room. It wasn't just the distance that made the shot special. It was the context. It was a message to the other team and everyone watching that no matter how tight the game felt, Caitlin could flip the energy in an instant. One possession and one perfect shot. She walked off the floor at halftime, not just as the best player on the court, but as the one completely in control of the moment. But as good as the first half was, the tone shifted coming out of the break. Things got more physical, more emotional. And then came the play. The foul, coupled with the tension, was a flashpoint that reignited one of the WNBA's biggest rivalries. Everything had been building to this, the tension and the history between these two. And when the second half began, it didn't take long for things to boil over. But this time, it wasn't Caitlin Clark taking the hit. It was Caitlin delivering it. Midway through a heated sequence, Clark chased down Angel Reese on a drive and committed a hard foul that instantly drew attention from everyone in the building. The refs gave her flagrant. The crowd erupted. Social media lit up. And just like that, the rivalry reignited in real time. Caitlin Clark in the aftermath. Everyone in the arena had to know this foul was coming. As soon as you saw Angel Reese wide open, you knew that Caitlin Clark was going to come in and take that. This wasn't reckless. This was emotion, competition, and message sending all wrapped into one play. For months, she'd taken hits, literally and figuratively, from veterans, fans, and media. And now, in her second season, she wasn't absorbing punches anymore. She was throwing a few of her own. That foul said more than any press conference ever could. It said, "I'm not backing down." I'm not playing the nice rookie role anymore. If you want to get physical, I'll meet you there. And the best part, she didn't unravel and lose control. Moments later, she was back in her flow, still putting pressure on the defense the way only she can by putting the other team in her own personal highlight reel. If the flagrant foul made headlines, what Caitlin did next reminded everyone why she's still the most dangerous player on the floor. Some players let their emotions take over after a heated moment. They force shots and they can even spiral. But not Caitlin. She took that fire and used it to fuel the next possession. Special. What's different? Yeah, just trying to play the right way and just trying to impact winning the right way. I think over the last couple of years and having some experience, losing made me wanna, coming off a strong screen from her teammate, she stepped into open space. The defense was just a step late, and that's all the time she needed. The range was deep and the form smooth. The message was loud. While everyone else was still reacting to the flagrant, Caitlin had already moved on. She wasn't caught in the moment. She was already writing the next one. It's one thing to be emotional. It's another to be efficient. This was the response of someone who's not just fighting back, but doing it on her terms. Not with panic, but with poise. The kind of poise that keeps the scoreboard moving and the narrative shifting. And now that she had the defense stretched out again, Caitlin went right back to picking them apart. This time with a move that had a little more flair. With her jumper already stretching the defense and the tension from earlier moments still hanging in the air, Caitlin didn't slow down. She shifted gears because when defenders start pressing up to take away her deep shot, that's when she shows them what else she's got in the bag. On this next possession, she didn't rush. She sized up her defender, kept her dribble alive, and waited for just the slightest lean, then made her move. Music, a quick hesitation, a subtle change of pace, and the defender was already off balance. Caitlin rose up with complete control, took the mid-range in stride, and buried it. It's a shot that looks simple on the surface, but the mechanics and timing are elite. This wasn't just about showing off her handle. It was about reminding everyone that she's dangerous at all three levels. When you take away the three, she'll beat you off the dribble. When you take away the drive, she'll stop on a dime and hit you with the in-between game. And when the defense doesn't know what to take away, that's when the passing lanes open up and Caitlin's vision starts taking over again. By now, defenders were on their heels. They'd seen the deep three. They'd been hit with the mid-range. They were chasing her off screens, closing out harder, trying to force her into contested shots. But that's the trap. When you overcommit to stopping Caitlin Clark from scoring, you expose yourself to something even worse, her passing. Because Caitlin doesn't just see the open player. She sees the next rotation, the defensive gamble, the angle most point guards never notice until it's too late. Here's Clark spinning, bouncing. What a find. And Howard lays it in. As the defense collapsed on her drive, Caitlin threaded the ball right through two defenders and into the hands of her teammate. Right on target, right in rhythm, right on time. It wasn't a safe pass. It wasn't even a normal one. It was the kind of pass you only attempt if you trust your timing, your instincts, and your control. And that's what makes her so hard to guard. You can take away one part of her game, maybe two, but she'll just pivot to whatever you leave open. She scores when she wants to and facilitates when she feels like reminding you she's also a floor general. Caitlin Clark isn't just running the offense. She's rewriting how it operates. And the next play was a perfect example of her doing it all in one sequence. Rebounding, pushing the pace, and setting the tone on both ends. Scoring and passing might be the headlines. But games are won with effort, with hustle, with those moments where star players do the dirty work. 2. And in this game, Caitlin Clark wasn't just lighting up the box score. She was checking every single column. Get one, meaning get that rebound. There it is, a triple-double for Caitlin Clark. With her team wanting stops and her triple-double within reach, she crashed the glass with the same urgency she brings to every deep pull-up or clutch assist. The shot went up. She boxed out and she snagged a rebound, her 10th of the night, securing her first triple-double of the season. And she didn't stop there. She immediately turned, looked up court, and fired a full-court outlet pass on a rope to her teammate. Streaking in transition, it didn't lead to a bucket, But that's not the point. The point is Caitlin Clark does it all. She finishes plays, she starts them, and she sees the floor like it's in slow motion. Her bounds aren't just stats, they're launching pads. Her instincts don't just help her read plays. They allow her to create them in real time. By the end of this game, the message was clear. If you thought her rookie year was the peak, think again. She's stronger and more complete, and she was just getting started. The next game would make that crystal clear. As the spotlight grew brighter, Caitlin Clark rose to the moment with even more pressure on her. And yet, Caitlin Clark didn't flinch. She embraced it. If Game 1 was a statement of skill, Game 2 was about toughness. And on this play, she made that crystal clear. Driving hard into the paint with defenders hanging all over her, she absorbed contact, kept her balance, and powered through for the bucket. And as the whistle blew, the ball kissed off the glass and dropped straight in. Adjustments, but they're doing a good job playing with two bigs so far. It was the kind of play that sends a message, not just to her teammates, but to the entire league. Caitlin isn't just out here for show. She's not afraid of the hit, and she's not waiting for anyone to cut her slack. She's taking everything the defense throws at her and turning it into momentum. You could see it in her expression after the play. The focus. This wasn't about a single bucket. It was about setting the tone again for how she was going to fight in year 2. And as defenders got more aggressive, trying to throw her off rhythm, Caitlin responded with control. On the very next trip, she came right back with a shot that showed just how dialed in she was, even under pressure. After finishing strong through contact, most players might take a beat, run the offense, reset, catch their breath. But not Caitlin. Not when there's space to exploit. Not when the defense thinks they've done enough. The very next possession, they tried to crowd her, body her, and force a mistake. And once again, she made them pay. This time, not by getting to the rim. You talk about degree of difficulty on her shots here tonight. The defender played it well. Stayed in front of Caitlin with a hand in her face. But it didn't matter. Caitlin's footwork, balance, and release were all textbook. It was a veteran's move. Smart, efficient, and impossible to stop unless you blocked at the source. This is what makes her so difficult to defend. If you play off, she'll hit the three. If you crowd her, she'll drive. And if you manage to stay with her step for step, she'll just rise up and shoot over you. She's not just reacting anymore. She's dictating. And now, with the defense unsure how to contain her, she turned the pressure up again, this time by threatening a pass only a handful of players in the league would even try. By now, Caitlin had scored from deep, from mid-range, and through contact at the rim. But what separates her from almost every other guard in the league isn't just the ability to score. It's the ability to keep the entire defense guessing. And when you start to focus too much on her shot, that's when she starts slicing you apart as a playmaker. With the defense scrambling to keep up and the lane momentarily clogged, she didn't just reset. She didn't force a drive. Instead, she improvised perfectly. Caitlin Clark going to work right here. Gets in the gap. It's called gravity because she drags others with her, and Boston always makes her. In one fluid motion. She drove hard, drew the defense in, and without even turning her head, whipped a behind-the-back pass right into her teammate's shooting pocket. The timing was perfect. The execution was clean, and the vision pure instinct. This wasn't flash for the sake of it. It was efficiency disguised as flair. It was Caitlin reading the rotation 2 seconds ahead and delivering the kind of pass that makes defenses stop and rethink their entire approach. Because when she's scoring and passing like this, it's no longer about stopping her. It's about trying to survive her. And when her teammates start clicking alongside her, what follows is even scarier. Chemistry. And Caitlin Clark was about to show just how much of that she's built with the players around her. When a star player takes over a game, it's one thing. But when that star starts making players around her better, when the offense starts humming because of her presence, that's when it becomes something more. That's when you start to see the real difference between talent and leadership. After setting the tone individually, Caitlin turned the spotlight to her teammates, and they responded. The ball movement got sharper, and the trust, you could see it growing with every possession. Watson sitting courtside over behind Carl Schmemesco. Mitchell with the steal. It's a 3-on-2. Clark back for Mitchell. She will launch and knock down a long two. This wasn't a solo act anymore. It was a masterclass. Started with a drive to draw two, a pass to shift the help, a swing to tilt the floor, and that final dime to punish the rotation. Everyone touched the ball. And it all started with Caitlin making the right read, the unselfish pass, and the play that lifted the entire possession. You can't fake chemistry like that. It's built over time, forged in practice, and strengthened by a leader who doesn't need to dominate every play to leave her fingerprints all over it. While it's beautiful when it flows like this, Caitlin also knows when it's time to take matters into her own hands again. Because even in the middle of great team movement, she's always ready to step in and carry the load when it's needed most. There's a difference between playing well and playing with urgency. When the game tightens, when the scoreboard starts tipping the other way, and when your team needs someone to step up, it's not about highlights anymore. It's about toughness, mental and physical. Caitlin had already distributed. She'd already hit the outside shots and gotten her teammates involved. But now, the game was getting away from them. The energy was shifting, and someone had to keep Indiana in it. She didn't hesitate. The rebound by 6 with minute 50 to go. Clark turns on the Jets. Clark lays it in. It wasn't the most spectacular play of the night, but it might have been the most important in that stretch. Because plays like this don't just put points on the board. They send a signal to the rest of the team. Follow me. We're not going away. This is what fighting back looks like. Not just flashy threes and highlight passes, but gritty buckets in moments that demand more than skill. They demand leadership. And once Caitlin steadied the ship, she flipped the switch again, going right back to one of her most dangerous weapons. After battling inside for tough layups, most players would take a breather, slow the pace, reset the offense. But Caitlin Clark doesn't wait for the perfect moment. She creates it. And with the defense dropping just one step too far, she made them pay the price immediately. Difficult angle. Another second chance opportunity. Clark fires away and knocks down a three. It came out of rhythm, but it landed like a knockout punch. The kind of shot that doesn't just change the scoreboard. It silences a crowd, forces a timeout, and flips momentum on its head. Caitlin didn't need a screen. She didn't need to set anything up. She just read the defense, stepped into space, and delivered. And while that one got people on their feet, the next one proved it wasn't luck. It was surgical. Some players have range. Some players have rhythm. But when Caitlin Clark finds both, that's when she becomes unstoppable. One possession after drilling a deep three off the dribble, she came right back down the floor and didn't even blink. That is just that signature Caitlin Clark shot. She will launch. Oh, yes, this wasn't a heat check. It was a heat warning. The defense knew what was coming. They just couldn't do anything about it. Caitlin needed no extra room. She rose up from behind the arc and delivered again with the kind of confidence only the elite carry. These are the moments that break games open, not just because of the 6 quick points, but because of what they do psychologically. Defenders hesitate. Teammates get energized. Coaches run out of answers. In back-to-back possessions, Caitlin didn't just close the gap. She flipped the vibe of the entire game. And the most impressive part, she made it look routine. After knocking down back-to-back threes and forcing the defense to extend beyond the arc, Caitlin Clark didn't get comfortable. She didn't force another deep shot or settle for isolation. Instead, she used the gravity she created. Every defender leaning her way has an opportunity to shift into pure playmaker mode. Because when your defender's overcommitting, all it takes is a sliver of space. And Caitlin doesn't just see the sliver. She delivers right through it. There's that drag screen. Bouncing for Boston. Boston lays it in. It's a 2. With pressure coming and the lane collapsing, Caitlin whipped a laser through a tight window. It wasn't an obvious pass. It wasn't safe, but it hit her teammate in stride, threading the ball between defenders like a quarterback firing into double coverage, except with zero room for error. This is a part of her game that turns heads across the league. Everyone knows she can shoot, but it's her anticipation, her timing, and her willingness to take risks that makes her such a complete offensive weapon. The passes don't just reach their targets. They arrive at the exact moment they need to. And just like that, another possession ended with Caitlin dictating the outcome. not with a shot, but with precision, control, and an unshakable understanding of how to bend the game to her will.